So lately, I'm sure all of you guys have been enjoying this beautiful weather, 80s and 90s, and perfect tortoise grazing weather. They've been out and active, which is awesome, and it's a lot of fun to be spending time this time of year, but it will be warming up soon, and we'll be seeing those higher summer temperatures. So summer behavior. Once it starts getting really, really, really hot, tortoises can go into periods called estivation, and they spend a lot more time in their burrows. So sometimes they won't come out to eat, and we get some worried phone calls. And I say, you know what? If you don't want to be outside, your tortoise doesn't want to be outside either. And they'll just stay in their burrow and remain inactive. So it's pretty normal for them to do this, and it's a way to conserve energy. Basically, it costs them more energy to come out, especially in those hotter temperatures, to graze and browse for food than it does for them just to remain inactive. They may come out earlier in the day and in the evening to avoid those hot temperatures. And then really, really hot temperatures is what you want to be careful about. You do want to look out for anything 95 and above, because those temperatures can be an endangerment to your tortoise. Your tortoise may overheat, and signs of overheating is typically foaming at the mouth. They look really lethargic, they're breathing really heavily. So they can be aggressively struggling or trying to dig aggressively because they're trying to escape those extreme temperatures. So especially if you built your burrow on your own, you want to make sure you're monitoring the temperatures of the inside of your burrow to make sure that those aren't getting exceptionally high within the burrow, because your tortoise needs a place to go to avoid those temperatures.
Did someone say that there's temperature gauge that we could get just from a hardware store?
Yes, so they do have these awesome infrared thermometers that you can pick up at Walmart, Lowe's, Home Depot, and what it is like a little laser, and you can shoot it down into it, and it will take the temperature of the inside of your burrow, or actually your tortoise too.
So actually, if you go to like Home Depot and tell them what it is you want, they will know what I'm talking about.
They will know what you're talking about. If you say an infrared thermometer, they know exactly what it is, and it's about, I mean, they have them as cheap as like 10 to 15 bucks, I think. So checking your tortoise for ticks. So this one is like a crazy picture. Normally we don't see this many ticks on a tortoise. This is insane. Normally we find one or two, and they're usually collected at the seams of the scutes. So each of these plates are called scutes, and the seams is where your tortoise is growing, and it's actually live tissue. So when a tick decides to feed, that's usually where it will attach to. When it does decide to take a blood meal. Sometimes you can still find them on the skin, so I would recommend examining your tortoise, making sure that you're blowing dust off your tortoise if it's dusty like this, and just making sure that you're going along the seams. And then what I typically will do is kind of rotate the tortoise and check inside of the limbs, and the head area and the tail area, because they still can collect underneath the shell and within the limb area. See, so even here it's really difficult to see them actually. They're right underneath the shell, right by the cloaca. So you do want to make sure you're checking every little crevice, because that's where all the ticks can go. Now, in order to remove ticks, what I would recommend doing is using a soft toothbrush. They usually come off pretty easily, and then just brushing them off into a bucket with bleach and hot water, or you can use tweezers too to pick them off. Some of them can be very, very small, like the size of the head of a pencil. So you do want to be paying attention for that. There are larger ones as well that are bigger than that, about like a millimeter. So,
Are these the same type of ticks that a dog would get?
So other animals can be carriers of these ticks, but it's not a typical dog tick. So not like a deer tick or a hard tick. These are soft ticks, and mostly found in the Southwest United States. They typically are not a harm to humans or other animals. They don't really pose that much of a threat to tortoises either. They can carry relapse? Tick-borne relapsing fever, where you would get sick and then you'd feel okay, and then you'd get sick again and feel okay. A lot of times when people do come down with that, they don't even realize that it is tick-borne relapsing fever, and they just go get treated with antibiotics. So there's really not been very many reports of it even.
So where are they getting these from?
So the ticks act as nesting bugs. So they are just like bed bugs, and they latch onto a host, and then the host will transport them from burrow to burrow. They like dark, cool spaces. So part of our issue with ticks at the habitat is we don't always find them on tortoises unless they're feeding, because they stay in the burrow. So we had to dig up all the burrows and expose them to sunlight because they like the dark, cool spaces.
So your tortoise would have to be around another tortoise to get to.
That is correct. But keep in mind too, especially since you live out in a rural area, other animals can be hosts that carry these ticks. So lizards can pick them up and take them into a burrow and take them out of a burrow. Typically, if your tortoise hasn't been exposed to ticks, it's pretty rare that you would be finding them on your tortoise, but it is still something that you want to pay attention for and just do an external examination. Just a precaution.